We're here with episode 9 of Inside the Lair with a BMCC alum and the current women's basketball coach in his second year, asterisk the third year because of COVID, Eric Almonte. And Eric, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
When I had a chance to speak with head coach of baseball, Jonathan Ramos, in our third segment about BMCC and why he attended, originally he said he really wanted to go in the Army. But a friend had actually encouraged him to go to BMCC, and he really felt it was a place that he could rebuild himself and gain academic confidence, as well as just the location is just great. And I've heard that from several players we've had on. Coach, why did you decide to attend BMCC?
I went to BMCC in about 2009, right after high school. Still a young guy, but I actually spent probably about like a year and a half or so, or maybe just like 2 semesters, I think. Kind of juggling what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be, and I didn't really have like that type of guidance in high school. And I came across BMCC. I got accepted there. Didn't know much about college, but it is convenient to go to. Like every train goes there and everything, and things were a little different now. It wasn't as like inclusive with CUNY, but it was for me it was just the right choice. I ended up, long story short, going to the Army, and when I went to finish, I decided to go back to BMCC and finish there so I can move forward from the 2-year into the 4-year.
Here with episode 9 of Inside the Lair with BMCC alum from 2016, Eric Almonte, an assistant coach for volleyball, and of course the current women's head coach. When we did a little Q&A, it's funny enough to say how long ago this was, back in April, for the NJCAA Forward campaign. You said one of the greatest things about coaching at BMCC is the environment. Everyone just treats each other well, and I want you to kind of elaborate on that for the viewers, because it isn't just amongst staff, and you said referees, which is quite nice, but the players as well. You just love the environment. That's really one of the reasons you like coaching here.
Yes, like so far as an assistant and head coach and everything, my experience has been really good. Like you mentioned, the referees like to go there. They never really have a problem with our school. The other coaches too, kind of respect. We get to throw the CUNY finals in there for most everything, because we do have a pretty big and nice facility and accessible as well. And honestly, like every time like a season is over or even 2 years down the line, all the students, they come back to either a practice to watch or to help around, or especially the games too, playoffs, finals, and even my office. They just come in, check around, and to this day, I speak to the students that I coached 5 years ago. And as you've seen, I had one as my assistant this last year, Ashley Brooks, and even Natalia. She came over and helped during this last season, during practice and everything. And it's just a good environment. Everyone gets along. They build like a family. And that's why I think, a lot of people gravitate towards it.
You really said, I want to elaborate on this for our viewers. One of your favorite things about coaching is the environment on and off the court for your players and the relationships. You just mentioned Ashley Brooks. She was around when you were an assistant, but she comes back and, brings that knowledge, excellent basketball rebounding knowledge to your players. It's got to feel really cool. You coach players, that you have that relationship with them off the court. That's the best thing about being a coach. It's one of the hardest things to strive for, and yet your players really gravitate towards you.
It comes down to being genuine. I really can't go to someone and say, hey, we're going to offer you, a full ride or anything. We have to actually build, a further relationship. Not saying that, the Division I coaches don't. They end up seeing that it's more, especially because it's a 2-year. I want them to be able to not only play in the 4-year, possibly get a scholarship, but go to a good school so they can find their major and hopefully get out in there to the real world.
Here with head coach Eric Almonte, episode 9 of Inside the Lair, a 2016 BMCC alum, and he is the current women's basketball coach at Borough of Manhattan Community College. So, Coach, we're going to go back to this Q&A interview because that's really kind of how I tried to make things easier for you here. Some of your favorite coaching moments. Let's get into this. But one of them I'm going to start with to kind of help set you up because I've spoken to two of your ex-players that you were an assistant with under head coach Newberg at the time, Nikola Zhilikova. I got a chance to speak with Ashley Brooks, and they always talk about LaGuardia. It was, to me, that's a season, not only did you have 20 wins, they had actually both told me there were two pains in the butt that you ended up beating that really got this program over the hump. But let's go to the conference first, and then we'll go to the region next. You upend LaGuardia. You beat them in the CUNY final. Then you knock them out in the regional quarter. With the trouble they had given you, the girls both said they didn't really seem to respect the program. Just talk about winning both of those matchups, really, and what you told the girls.
Yeah, so it seems like forever ago, right? Like since we've played LaGuardia and everything. But I didn't really grow up in like the CUNY basketball like realm, or like I didn't know presence of schools like Sullivan and LaGuardia, Hostos. Times change. Sometimes a school dominate during a certain era and stuff like that. But just in general, most likely their culture is still always there. So my first year, coaching there, and Coach Ben Newberg as well, and Jonathan Ramos, like we were all, and Vicky Carter, we all kind of stuck together, and we did as best as we could. We didn't have that much time to recruit, but luckily we had some players that fought hard and everything. And then that next year, and technically essentially like the next 2 years, we were like really competitive. We had Nicola, we had Brooks, Natalia, Karina. We had a bunch, it's been a while, so I don't have the roster in front of me, but they all contributed. And it helps when you have, multiple players scoring 10 or so points, especially when, like, in women's basketball, you average around, like, 60 points. It was, like, rivalries, but, like, not right. Like, it wasn't like it was any beef or anything, but, like, it was intense, right? We go into these places, like you said, maybe they didn't respect the program, or they didn't think that we had it. And then the team was just, so together. They were just, flowing. We had the rebounds, we had the 3-pointers, we had the assists. It was just, everything was working, and then to go to these tournaments and like make, a couple straight CUNY finals, and then like to get to the regional semis, but then make it to the regional finals. Like those games were just like, and then the crowds too. Like it was just support from all over, It was a pretty good era.
Here on episode 9 of Inside the Lair with 2016 BMCC alum and current women's basketball coach Eric Almonte. So the other pain in the side of the program, Sullivan. 2 times during the season they beat you, but you get them in the regional semis and you knock them off. You get up by 11, then they come back furiously in the second half, tie it up. Ice water in your veins. Nikola Zhilikova ties it at 68. Ashley Brooks has a chance to win it. She misses those 2 free throws. Career high 34 from Natalia Dubrovina. She's able to knock down some threes, really get the OT started. You get the victory over Sullivan, 85-81. First thing I want to talk about that game, I mean, you came out firing. What was said in the locker room going into that matchup?
It was just like a sense of urgency. We had players that, essentially weren't, like straight out of high school, right? So like for them, this is their moment. They were just like pumped. Everything, was going well. And obviously, with you saying how tight the score was and going to overtime, Sullivan played, crazy game too. We've had, crazy matchups throughout, the years and stuff like that.
What was said to Ashley Brooks here? Because she talked to me about, missing those 2 free throws. And, as a coach, at least the generation of kids today, how they respond to coaching in really a tough moment is much different today. And, what was said there on the sideline, because she came out and really played well in OT for you down low and helped out. It's not easy to miss those 2 free throws, when you have a chance to put away the game.
If I said anything to her was, brush it off. And she's mentally strong, A lot of people don't know she had a pretty good mid-range shot. It wasn't just post for her. Like, she can do a lot, especially against the other bigs. She was almost unguardable for them. And I'll never forget it because she missed those free throws, right? And the way it happened was crazy. uh, the girl on the on and Sullivan had no business fouling, you know, and it just happened. Turned out in our favor, and even though it could have just went to overtime, she got fouled, and then we had a chance just to score one, and then it would have sent it. But she made, I'm pretty sure she made all her free throws in overtime, which got her even more upset, you know. And then obviously, like you mentioned, Natalia just torched it from the three, and just she was like, no more overtimes. Let's just get out of here and go to the finals.
Here in episode 9 of Inside the Lair with former BMCC alum of 2016, Eric Almonte, current women's basketball coach. A chance to really talk about players that have played for you. Why is Ashley Brooks, in what I've seen her, when I was cutting her film for her interview, why is she such an effective rebounder?
She wasn't even gonna play basketball. I don't think she was ever really like taught it like that. So I'm guessing maybe the moments that she did, she just unconsciously like learned the way the ball bounces off the rim. Like you don't even notice those things, and they just happen. And then I've spoken to her about like where to stand when the ball hits like when somebody's shooting from a certain side. It's just certain things that just over time you start understanding because obviously as you've seen, you can see her when she boxes out and she just muscles through everyone. But there's times that she goes untouched, just swerving through everyone because she'll know where to be at the right time.
Deja Dennis Humphreys, in one season, is a single season record holder in blocks.
What she would do is just wait. Like she would legit just slide her feet, keep her hand out, and then wait. Once it left the player's hand, it was a swat. And who knows how many blocks, she would have had if she was able to play and also fully healthy.
Down low, able to put up 95 in one season. That's a single season record. It's also the program's all-time record. And what a nice segue, because the woman before her, I mentioned Ashley Brooks, had 94.
Right.
So it's pretty darn impressive. I want to talk at the guard position, and I may mix maybe a small forward in here too. What is it about Chiara Ortega that's so great? I mean, when I look at her shot, she has beautiful form. What do you think is really good about her? What do you like about her game?
I think it's more of her reps, right? You could tell she's played with boys, with women, and she's played in the park, she's played in the gym, she's just played everywhere, right? And it's a big factor, right? You just want to see the game as much as possible. What I think makes her game super effective is she's essentially a guard in a small forward, body. So like height and everything, strength, everything, so it makes her even more dominant. And as you said, her shot was, it felt like it could almost always go in. Also, the fearlessness added a bunch to it. She didn't care, same thing with a lot of those girls that year. They didn't care who stepped on the court. Like they were going to give it their all. If they were going to get pushed, they were going to push right back. To me, the most underrated part of Karina's game was her passing. And I would say underrated because it was probably not documented as much because, people would drop her passes because they didn't know that it was coming. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they were there. Like you would see the bench sometimes. Even the coaches, we'd be like, oohs and ahs.
Someone who received a lot of those passes in the Sullivan game, Natalia Dubrovina. That's why I know Karina had such a good passing ability. Natalia could just shoot it from anywhere. I mean, it didn't matter.
Even though her 3-pointers, were the main part of her game, even off just the one dribble pull up into mid range too, because she's so tall she could just shoot over anyone. And then it's like we had Nicola, Karina, and Natalia that could all shoot three. So it's like it was pick your poison.
This year I got a chance, my first year as the SID, to let's just stick to another guard who played for you, played 2 years for you. And you mentioned that Karina played with boys. You had a player this year, Autumn Adams Edward, who actually practiced with the men's team a lot. And she also could wow you with the way she played. It was a tougher second season for her because more of the focus was on her. I would say one thing about her game, she's tough. She keeps getting up, she keeps fighting, and kind of slippery in the way she can drive. What else do you like about her game?
She did practice probably, I guess you could consider it twice a day, right? She did practice with the men's team, a lot of skills and drills. And this is both years. She was really close with some of the players, and as you see in the men's team, they're like a crazy family as well. With Anthony McLean, Terrell Fullerton, Karan Dublin, and all of them. They had Coach Ramos, Mike Hussein. Like they just had a good culture there. we have the luxury of having three courts, right? Two of them are high school size, but it's still courts. So even if they weren't able to do anything on the main court with the men, they were able to do stuff, you know, on the side. And she was just always ready, skills drills, and same thing. She would park, summer, everything, year round. And as you said, the second half of the season was a little tough because both the years that she played for me, I went from essentially a full roster to like ending with seven, you know. So it was tougher, on her and some of the players that had to play more minutes, get double teamed or a zone, right? Like it would be like a box and one kind of. And that's common with teams when the plays run through the point guard. But what really like made her super effective was her drive to just be there. Like she never wanted to give up. She never like complained once.
And someone else I got to see play down low, and she also played volleyball. And probably a player you wish you had one more year with, if you could, Lauren Malcolm. I mean, in just a short amount of time, she's finished in the top 10 in program history in rebounding. And one thing that I saw about her game, she is just a physical rebounder. She's another one who can track the ball, but if you're going to, I don't just think it's rebound. You can go to anything against Lauren Malcolm. It's going to be hard to get through her.
I told you once she came into one of the practices, we knew automatically like, okay, this girl has to start, and then ended up getting a crazy amount of rebounds against the top school in the country. So it's like with her, it is like you said, more than just tracking. Like she just wants to do the dirty work all the time. She just doesn't want to lose. She doesn't. That ball has to be hers. Like that's all she cares about. Only thing, I helped her get a little more confidence with was her offensive ability. We told her shoot. Like she at first didn't have the confidence in her shot, but she had one of the best mid range shots, especially from the corner. So I just think that's why some schools really wanted her because they saw just how every time you would look at a highlight or play, she was giving it her all. Only time obviously playing all those minutes is after a while, you winded running down back on defense on a fast break. So it's like it happens. But other than that, all the time, just she's just go.
Here with episode 9 of Inside the Lair, a BMCC alumnus of 2016 and current women's basketball coach, Eric Almonte. And we're happy to have him with us. A lot of fun for him here coaching as an assistant. And obviously now he's the head guy at the women's basketball program. So, Eric, you actually were in the Army for a short period of time. They really teach you discipline, a lot of executive functioning skills. But I always feel it's a lot of toughness, mental toughness. What do you take from your experience of that and bring it to your coaching career?
Yeah, so I think I took a lot of um, the mental side of it where things are going to be tough regardless, right? Like a whole season of basketball is tough. It's a sacrifice, right? But as long as you could, push through, fight through, and everything, you can accomplish pretty much anything. Not to sound like cheesy or anything, but it is true, right? Like if you want to get it, like you will. Like our students aren't the only students in the world that have had to, work, play and do school. So it's like if you want it, you're gonna get it. So I think, I took a little bit of that mental toughness and also learning a lot about how would you say like physical, activity, workouts and everything. Essentially having to do some strength and conditioning and things like that. And I guess you would say being on time, discipline, and stuff like that. The normal military stuff.
You move on to Hunter and you get your degree there. Just talk about how your skill set was stepping in there after your time at BMCC.
I walk in and I'm there and I'm like, so would you guys like another coach? And he was like, just send me the resume. He sees my resume and sees that I'm pretty qualified to do it, and I'm in there. So I was actually a student, while being an assistant, and I finished BMCC, and at 2016 after I go to Hunter, still an assistant there, coaching high school, and then that summer when Ben decided to part ways, I was actually studying abroad, and like I was actually away at that moment when he told me, and this is like a couple days before the semester starting. lets me know, if I would like to go with him, and I'm like, sure. But him, Coach Ramos, and even Steve Kelly, they say, hey, why don't you just try to apply an interview? I go and interview. He tells me, Mr. Kelly, he says, you can be a head coach if you get your bachelor's. And this was my last semester. I only had 2 or 3 classes left to complete it, and I was like, it's a deal, So I got my bachelor's, was able to be a head coach. So I was my last semester, got the head coaching job, and I was in the 4 year, which was basically the Upper East Side, and rushing to practice. And I graduated in January actually, and my graduation was during one of the games. I'm pretty sure it was Suffolk. So, I had my suit that I usually wear for the home games, and I went to graduation, my cap and gown and everything. I say bye to my family and, congratulations to my friends and the students. And then I get on the train and I run to the game. And I had one of our assistant coaches at the time, Chiara Ortega, which, played for us as well my first year there. And I was like, hey, I'm going to need you to coach for at least the first couple of minutes. I'm running, late. So I get in, I have my cap and gown, and everybody's like, clapping, and I'm like, it's a little weird with the attention. I'm running, I'm going behind the bench, and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just get into the gym office, take off my cap and gown, but the suit was already on, so I just, got right into coaching, and I started writing plays and everything. And I liked it at that moment too, because it showed the players that I'm doing the same thing that you're doing time-wise, but also like I did the 2 year, right? I did the 4 year while being here the same amount of hours that you have to be, and essentially more with planning and everything like that. But I think it was a good message to them that like anyone can do it, and especially me doing it, years later after I attempted it like 10 years ago.
That's an amazing story, Coach.
Yeah.
I actually never knew that. Now I love that, Coach. Thank you for joining us here on Inside the Lair, and good stuff. Really, thank you for taking the time, and
Anytime.
I look forward to really again working together. We do, but in person at a baseball
Yes,
game
yes.
soon.
Hopefully this fall we're back. We'll see how things go.